So my guest today is Jen Lundy, a career coach and professional staffing expert with more than 13 years of experience helping people of all disciplines and backgrounds. She's a beginner to me. I did it for more than 40, including technology, marketing, operations, administrative, and entry through executive level roles, helping people write effective resumes, prepare for interviews so they can achieve their career goals. She's interviewed, let me restate that, she's reviewed more than 25,000 resumes and partnered with thousands of job seekers and hundreds of hiring managers. Jen Lundy, how are you today? Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for that lovely introduction. I very much appreciate it.
And it put the smile on your face. Wonderful.
You should always smile. You should always smile.
And that's true for interviewing folks in particular. It launches the conversation properly. So with that, we're going to be talking today about finding your value, because everyone tells you to find what your value is. No one really knows how to do it except to talk to people. So let's do it better than that. Jen, tell me, how should someone begin the process of trying to figure out what their value is in the market?
Right. No, I love this question because I think this is something that we all, to take a step back, I firmly believe first and foremost, every person has something that they have of value to offer. They have strengths, they have skills. Even if you are brand new to your career, you are right out of school, or even just venturing into your first job, or you have 30, 40, 50 years of professional experience, we all have something of value to offer and something that we can learn from other people. So I think I just want to put that out there first and foremost, because I think sometimes people, they question that. They question, do I really have something of value to offer? And yes, you absolutely do. And
I'm a recent community college graduate with a 2.1 index. I've got something of value. God, I never thought of it that way.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes we just have to spend the time to figure that out and figure out what that is. And, for me, if I really look at it at the end of the day and how we can find our value, we can look at it from a big picture perspective. We can look at it from, how do I articulate that on a resume to further my career? And we can dive into some questions along those lines. But I really think it comes down to your skills aligning with your passion. If you can figure out where your passion and your skills align, that's really going to unlock you finding the value that you have and what you can bring to the table. And once you identify that, I think that really helps you to build some confidence as you look at furthering your career.
So I just heard you say, follow your passion. And so many people have lost that loving feeling over the course of time. Even when they get out of school, their version of it is, I don't know what to do. Everyone tells me to find my passion. I never found it in school. What do I do now? So in finding this alignment, how would you suggest people find it to begin with to then connect it to value?
Yes, absolutely. So I think one place to start, which tees into that or leads into that, is reflecting on where you've been able to help people in the past. So that could be professional, it could be in a school setting, could be just personal, helping your friends, your family. But do some reflection on where you've been able to actually help people close to you in your life and how that made you feel. Because if you can figure out some areas where you've been able to actually tangibly help someone and truly provide tangible value, and you can recognize that and you can identify how that made you feel, and it really made you feel good, I think that starts to uncover some of those little clues that will help you figure out what you are passionate about. And it's not, it's not always obvious, right? It can be in little things that you do in day-to-day life or in a work setting, like I said, but paying attention to those areas where you can help others and how it makes you feel, and noticing those things that you do get really excited about, and you get that intrinsic good feeling, because that's really a good clue for you to start to dig deeper into.
And thus, for the person who's good at something, that's not enough. That can be the right answer, because they have intrinsic talent there. But it's noticing how you feel when you're in a flow state.
Right.
and you're able to really rock and roll. That was my,
Ex-
years ago,
exactly.
that was a term, and
Yes.
I know I'm dating myself with that one,
And we
but
all love rock and roll.
and no one does rock and roll anymore anyway. It's only old people,
No.
but that's a different
Right.
conversation. So it's really finding where you're connecting with
Right.
yourself and with others,
Yeah.
feel good about it. You got the talent
Right.
for it, and
Exactly.
perfect. So that becomes the launch point on the finding out where
Right.
you're emotionally connected with something.
Exactly.
And then what do you do?
Okay. So I think that's kind of step number one. Another thing that you can reflect on, and again, kind of starting more big picture here, is thinking about what you're most proud of as well. So again, this could be personal or professional accomplishments, but I think both really do unlock clues to what motivates you at the end of the day. So thinking back to the things that you're most proud of, what those either career or personal accomplishments are, because again, there's a reason. If you're feeling pride, it's kind of tying back into that intrinsic feeling, right? If you're feeling pride, if you're feeling, wow, like look what I've done, look what I've been able to do, no matter how small or big that is, again, that's another clue to help you uncover some of those areas where you're able to add value, where you're able to make a difference in the world and feel really good about it. And then you can start to explore how that can tie into a career or into your actual day-to-day work.
It's interesting. Your pride is something that, in US culture, it's downplayed. It's you're not supposed to feel that way. Do your job. It's
Right.
part of the job. Feel good. Oh no, proud. No, you give that away to your boss. And truth of the matter is, folks, you do feel that way. Get over yourself. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Notice it. Um,
Yes.
it's not a bad thing.
Right. I mean, I feel so strongly. I mean, most of us, unless you're, a small exception, most of us spend most of our time working, right? More time working than we do most other things for a very big portion of our lives. And so for me, that's part of why I love what I do, is if you can help, for me, helping other people find a career path that they enjoy, is so rewarding because we spend so much time working. So it's really worth it to spend the time exploring your personal goals, what motivates you, what you're proud of, how you've been able to help people in the world, in your life, and figuring out a way to incorporate those things into your career path. You will have such a more enjoyable career, more fulfilling career, if you're able to make those connections. And I think a lot of times we separate, our personal lives from our professional lives, which, makes sense, but you don't have to separate the things that you love or the things that get you excited and the things that you're passionate about. And I think a lot of us have been trained or conditioned to believe that we have to hate work and it's just a necessary evil. Yes, we all have to work, but we can find work that we enjoy and that adds value to the world and makes us feel really good at the same time.
For those of you who don't feel that way, follow the train back to the school system where you're told to shut up and do what you were told, regurgitate a bunch of stuff when we tell you to do it, or else you won't get a good grade and thus won't get into the good college. And you get into college, it's the same thing all over again, with the threat being you're not going to get the good job. And, our joy and our passion gets beaten out of us at such an early age. What Jen is talking about here and what so many of us work with is the notion of connecting emotionally, because that's your greatest value, is when you're in touch with yourself and with your heart, you're clear about things, you've gotten yourself qualified to do them, etc. So we're at a great launch point on big picture. Is there anything else on big picture we should cover?
I think those are the key things. I think really just paying attention to where people ask you for help, how that makes you feel, what you're good at, and what you're proud of. Those are kind of the first clues to really identifying the motivators and the things that you should be looking for when it comes to your actual career path and your work. So hopefully that's a good reflection exercise for people to do some digging and exploring in terms of what makes sense for them in their career path.
Wonderful. And thus, what becomes the next thing that they should do?
Right. Okay. So now let's get a little bit more tactical, I guess. I do think that the first several questions that we talked through are really critical, because if you don't know, your personal motivation and values, you're going to have a hard time finding a fulfilling and rewarding career, right? So please do start there. But, you are in whatever situation you're in now, and maybe you're someone who's thinking about looking for a new job or updating your resume to put some feelers out and see about making that next step in your career. It is really important to keep in mind, as we're talking about finding your value, that you need to articulate that when it comes to a job search, right? You need to be able to speak to that in an interview, and it needs to be able to really catch attention and stand out in your resume, because it's very competitive. It's a great time. Tons of companies are hiring. At least I can speak for the United States. There's a lot of demand for highly skilled professionals, and there's a lot of competition. So you have to make yourself stand out. So I think one of the first pieces of advice that I would recommend, we talked about thinking about what you're most proud of. So when it comes to your professional experience, figuring out your proudest moments, your biggest accomplishments, identifying those. So in your most recent experience or over the expansion of your career, depending on how much experience you have, identifying those key accomplishments that you're most proud of so that you're prepared to speak to those and you can highlight them in your resume. And taking it one step further, if you're able to quantify those accomplishments, I think that's even more meaningful.
Betcha. Business is the language of money, folks. And
Yes.
where you can talk in terms of money saved, money earned, or in case you're with a firm where that's proprietary knowledge, percentage improvement over what existed previously, that
Yes.
becomes the fallback position. But you got to get some numbers in there, because as I've said so many times, there's a difference between something that you did that's worth $20,000, $2 million, 200 million, $2 billion. And
Exactly.
they don't know unless you tell them.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And I think, most resumes, if you think about it, right, it's a sea of words. It's all this, good information, hopefully, if you've done your resume right. But it's numbers and quantifiable data are a great way to really stand out. They capture attention. A number stands out amongst a page of words, and it is tangible evidence. In my opinion, I like to think about it this way. I think it's tangible evidence of what you've actually done. It's not just saying, oh, I've done all these great things. You're actually quantifying it. You can't argue with hard facts and numbers. So I think it really, really is meaningful, because when you go into an interview, when you go into a job search, the people that are that you're getting to know, that you're going to be meeting, they don't know you. They don't know your background. They don't know how great you are. So you have to make that point to make that stand out, so that they see that on your resume and they say, hey, I need to talk to this person. I want to know more about XYZ or whatever these numbers, whatever story this is painting for me. And I think, Jeff, you touched on a great thing there with talking about percentages, because sometimes people tell me, oh, well, Jen, I can't share certain numbers because of confidentiality or NDAs or whatever it is. Percentages are a great way to get around that, because you don't have to necessarily disclose what the revenue was at the end of the day or what the profitability was. But if you can talk about the percentage impact of how you actually affected change, that's huge. And that, again, when you do this exercise of quantifying your accomplishments, I promise you it will build your own confidence, because then you start to really see, wow, I really have added value, whether it be in dollars and cents or just that percentage increase or decrease, depending on the metric. It really helps boost your confidence and prepare you for those conversations as part of the job search.
And confidence is one of the things firms measure when they interview. It's funny. Everyone walks into an interview and they're well prepared to regurgitate a bunch of things. But when firms hire, confidence, self-confidence, character, chemistry, charisma, how much you seem to care about what you do, it all ties together into a package that allows them to want to trust you. So you can't lose sight of this. And projecting that self-confidence because you feel good about what you've done is an important part of how you demonstrate your worth to people.
100%. And I think, just to add one other thing on that, especially in this day and age, right? We're talking virtually right now. We're on a video meeting. So many interviews are happening via video now, where you don't, I guess it could be an advantage for some, but for better or for worse, you don't have the advantage of building an actual connection with someone in person as often anymore when it comes to making a first impression. And so having that confidence and that conviction in your voice and being able to convey that across a screen is, sometimes more challenging. So I think the more you can equip yourself with those facts of your value, your tangible value, it's going to set you up for success as you look at propelling yourself in your career, or even looking at getting promoted. Even if you're someone who's happy in your current job, but you're looking to grow, you need to have confidence. That's what really is going to get you noticed and will give you that ability to convey your value in a confident, not cocky way, but in a way that shows you're deserving of that recognition for the value that you bring to the table.
And folks, if you're watching this on video, Jen and I have done something very simple to demonstrate our confidence. At different points, we've smiled. Small smile. Doesn't have to be a big one. There's been a twinkle in our eyes at different times, because what we've done is we like what we're saying. We believe this is going to be effective for you. And as such, we demonstrate our confidence with our mouth, our eyes. In my case, I add in hand gestures. That works for me. I never block my face when I do it, especially on camera, but I do things to frame my body and frame my face so that in this way, people can feel the energy. It's that much more palpable when I do things with my hands. If you're comfortable doing that with your hands, feel free. Let them revel in your passion for what you do. Because like I said, they want to know that you care. And that's Absolutely. One of the ways that it shows.
Absolutely.
So what else should people do?
Yes, I actually think this segues really well into another question that I like people to think about. So especially if you're someone who's maybe struggling to figure out, your value or what to highlight in your resume, think about if you're in a position now, why does your job exist? There is a reason, right? There is a reason. Even if you feel like, oh, well, I'm an executive assistant, or, I'm in customer service. Maybe you don't, for whatever reason, you're thinking that you're not doing great things in your job, or you don't have a ton of value. That's not true. We started this conversation saying that everyone has value, and that's absolutely the case. Your job exists for a reason. So if you're having a hard time, reread your job description. Think about what would happen if everyone who had your position, I don't know if you're the only person, or maybe you have a team, if your team or you and your sole position disappeared, what would the impact be on that company? I'm sure there would be an impact, because most companies don't just choose to pay extra salaries because they feel like it.
No,
every job has a purpose. So really get clear. If you're having a hard time, I think this is really effective, is to understand, why does my job matter? Why does it exist? What would the impact be if I went away? And figure out how you can try to quantify some of those metrics if you were having a hard time quantifying other things. And again, I think this can help bring up your confidence in the importance of your position. We all have a role to play, and it's figuring out how you've been able to play that role to your best ability, and how you can communicate those skills, that value, to parlay into other, career moves or your career progression.
And let's add in career progression there. And I don't want that one going by just because it happened to be the last thing you said, because once you join that organization, you join with a halo. You want to keep that halo. You want people to recognize you as, excellent, a champion, whatever terms you want to use for it. You want other people to believe in you, because more opportunities come to you if you don't betray that trust.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree. And I think the last question that I think is helpful from this perspective is, spend some time thinking about what makes you great at your job. Why you for your position? What makes you different or better, or how have you affected change in some way? Really spend some time thinking about that. And again, I think we have this tendency, like you were saying, Jeff, we don't want to be prideful, which I'm not talking about being arrogant. I'm not talking about being cocky. But when it comes to your career and you think about career progression or making a move or trying to get promoted, whatever context we're talking about, you have to be able to not only recognize your own value and what makes you great, but you have to be prepared to speak to it. You have to highlight it in your resume. You have to talk about it in the interview. You have to, incorporate that in your networking conversations, whatever it might be. And so you have to take the time to recognize your own greatness. And sometimes, we talked about a lot of different questions over the course of this conversation. It really takes just sitting down and sitting with yourself and getting clear on not only your goals, but your value and your skills and what you love. So like we talked about, you can figure out, okay, where do my passions and my skills and my goals, where do all of those things align? And the clearer you can get on that, then you can start to develop your career path to achieve that. And it's not going to happen overnight, but you have to start by getting clear on those things first and foremost, in my opinion.
And I loved that you used one of the words that I challenge people with: greatness. So often we've been trained to be average, mediocre, one of the pack. Take it easy, and be great. And for those of you who've seen my shows before, I close by saying that: be great, because mediocrity gets paid mediocre money. Is that what you want? Mediocre performers have mediocre opportunities given to them. No, you say you want more. You got to put yourself out there. Otherwise, you're just another person, another body, and you're disposable.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that's such a good point, and does tie into this conversation is, if you want to achieve great things and you want great things in your life, you've heard the saying, probably, with great power comes great responsibility, right? I think if you really want amazing and great things in your life, you do have to take on a certain level of responsibility to achieve those things. It's not about showing up to work and just getting through the day and doing the bare minimum. It's about showing up to work or your job or your business, if it's your own, and showing up as your best self. How can I be a little bit better than I was yesterday? How can I learn something new today? And it's not always about necessarily achieving a new thing every single day or week or month or whatever, however you're measured and whatever is appropriate for your career. But how are you growing? How are you getting better? I think we, especially as you look at a career path and, we talk about accomplishments and all these great things that you've done. Those are all great and they're important in finding your value, but don't overlook the lessons that have come along the way, the challenges, where you've stumbled, or maybe you fumbled on a project that you were working on, but what did you learn from that? And how did it set you up to be successful? And how did you do better in the next project? Recognizing those wins and that personal and professional growth is really important. We don't just wake up one day and we're experts in what we do. It takes time, it takes challenges, it takes those obstacles. That's how you become great. So you still have to stay positive and motivated and wake up every day excited. And that is much easier when you are clear on your passion, on what you're good at. And when you know that, hey, it may not always be easy, but I am adding value at the end of the day. And I'm helping the people that I work with or around me. And I think that makes a really big difference to finding that fulfillment.
People use this example of the career path. And I don't know whether most people, when they think of a path, it's kind of clear. It's kind of open. It doesn't have a lot of pebbles on it or rocks or impediments. You can just kind of walk through. Folks, it's not that way.
No. And that's how you learn.
Right. And it's part of your gold are the stories of where you overcame some of those bumps and rocks and pebbles and impediments, and helped an organization thrive, prosper, and everything else, or your department. What you spotted that made a difference, how you've executed that makes a difference, so that the path was smoother for people. Career ladder, the career ladder, that's my other one. It's missing a lot of rungs these days, isn't it? It's
more of a rope to throw it up a little bit.
Right, you got to pull yourself up a lot.
Yes.
Everyone has that picture of the ladder where you kind of walk up step by step. It doesn't work that way.
Right. Yeah. And I think, you do have to take ownership of your career. And I think especially now, I touched on people working remotely now, and that's, there's still some people working on site, and we're seeing more and more of that, which is great, but there is more remote work than there ever has been, whether that be a daily occurrence for you or just an occasional occurrence. And I think that's another thing where if you're someone who's really motivated and you really want to grow in your career and continue to take on new challenges and achieve new things, you really have even more responsibility to go out of your way to make yourself seen and heard and to add value and to speak up, because you don't have the benefit of just being in the same physical space and being seen the same way that maybe many of us have in the past. So really take ownership of your career, of the things that you're passionate about, and make them happen. We all have that control and that ability. I don't think everyone always recognizes that. We just kind of float through and trip over the rocks on the career path as we try to figure it out. But you can take control of that. You really can.
And it's your responsibility, folks, to do it. No one's going to do it for you. Big mommy and big daddy company, not their job. It's your job. You're the chairperson of the board of your organization. You've got shareholders of your wife, husband, partner, the dog, the kids, whatever it is. You've got a board that you report to. You're responsible, not your employer. And when you outsource your career to them, trust me, they don't care as much as you do.
Right. No, absolutely. No one's going to care more. I say this all the time. No one is going to care more about your goals than you at the end of the day. No one will care more about your goals. And that's hard to get out of my mouth right now for some reason. No one will care more about your goals than you at the end of the day. So you have to decide what's really important to you, and you have to make that happen. And if you really serious about it and have that passion and that conviction, you'll make it happen. You'll find a way. You can always find a way. Where there is a will, there is a way. That is absolutely the case. So just have that confidence and get clear on what you want and go out there and make it happen.
Now, I'm going to bring up that subject that everyone's been waiting for. How do I figure my monetary worth? How do I do that?
Okay, so that's a really good question. I know you joked about this earlier, Jeff. It comes down to what they offer you, but I would say truly, when you're going into a job search process, you need to do research first and foremost. Do market research. I will say salaries have increased significantly over the course of this year because, as I was saying earlier, there's so much demand and there are not enough qualified, skilled people available for the opportunities that are out there right now. So I think do market research first and foremost as much as you can. There's tons of different online sources and salary centers. Some are free, some are paid. So depending on how in depth you want to get there, you can reach out to staffing firms in your area to ask for salary data. So there's lots of different ways, but do some research. Look at also some of the things that we talked about. Look at the value that you bring to the table. If you're someone who has been able to really affect change and you've been able to add to the bottom line or increase profitability, or maybe you have a technical skill set and you created an incredible new application that's driving millions and millions of dollars of revenue. These are really important factors. If you can tie what you've been able to do to quantifiable results, that will lead to you being able to negotiate a higher salary. But if you are not equipped with the information to go into that conversation, you're really at the whim of what that company feels are market rates. So, it's a broad question to answer, but I would say equip yourself with knowledge in terms of the market and make sure you're prepared to understand and communicate your value as it relates to your financial goals.
And folks, I'll just remind you, even though the salary guides may say this broad range, as they tend to do, one of the things I'll remind you of is part of the variables in there is, do you work for a brand or do you work for a no-name? Brands advantage people, no names don't until they become brands. So, as you measure your value financially in real dollars and cents, just remember that one of the things that you need to bring into the equation is, what brand do you work for? What's the halo around that brand? And if you work for three guys in a garage in Sacramento,
Right.
It has a different value than if you mention one of the, the FANG firms. So just recognize that has to work into your equation too, as you start
Yeah.
measuring numbers.
Absolutely.
What haven't we covered yet that we really should?
I just wanted to add one more thing on that topic we were just talking about. I
Please.
think because it ties into the last two things. When you look at what your financial value is, and I hate putting a dollar amount on people, right? But when you're talking about your salary and what you're worthy of earning from another company, I think the other factor that you have to keep in mind is we were just talking about taking responsibility for your career, taking ownership of your career. And you have to be honest with yourself at the end of the day. And if you're someone who really does wake up, you're motivated, you're a self-starter, you're taking initiative in your job every single day, hitting your milestones, thinking of new solutions and creative ways to approach the business or to further the business, that is incredibly valuable. So recognizing the role that some of those soft skills, so to speak, play into your salary, I think is huge. I think, technical skills or hard skills are very important. And if you have a hard or technical skill that's in high demand and is very scarce, you can definitely command a higher salary. But what I will say is that more and more companies are valuing that culture fit, those soft skills, that initiative, that responsibility over some of those hard and technical skills. So I just wanted to throw that out there for people to keep in mind so that they can do some self-reflection. If that's something that's a strength of yours, have references that speak to that. Be prepared to speak to that, because you can command a higher salary when you really show up and you add value every single day and people just see it and they feel it. It goes a long way.
Yay! Jen, how can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
Yes, a few different ways. First and foremost, you can absolutely go to my website, which is liveyourbestworklife.com. I do have tons of free videos on there, all career, professional development related. I have a free resume writing guide as well, my top 10 tactical tips for writing an effective resume. So if you go to liveyourbestworklife.com, click on resume tips on the top right corner, you can grab that for free. And I'm on all social media. You can search Your Best Work Life on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Please feel free to subscribe, get involved. I try to share as much helpful content as I can for those that are just looking to further their careers, find their value, achieve their goals. Like we said earlier, we spend more time working. I want to help people enjoy that. So.
Amen, sister. And folks, we'll be back soon with more. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. My site has thousands of posts in the blog that'll help you. So go there, go exploring. It'll work out very well for you. And I've got some courses that you can take as well on interviewing, hiring, and a bunch of other things. So you can order the courses. They will help you a lot. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, you can schedule time for a free discovery call, schedule time for coaching. I'd love to help you. And of course, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Mention that you saw this, because I like knowing I'm helping some folks. And once we're connected, trust me, your network is going to be a heck of a lot bigger. Hope you have a terrific day. And most importantly, be great. Take care.